Hello, this is Mathew Enoch. This is my video resume. First off, I went to college and graduate school for 20 years. I have everything but the dissertation toward a doctorate degree of business administration, and I also have a master's degree of business administration. Second of all, I've worked for a retail marketing firm since 2009, and toward the end of my experiences that were substantial with the company, I was working in 8 different U.S. states, and I was doing various cleanup, setup projects, training employees. I was actually being considered for promotion as a district manager in my company. And what happened there is COVID-19 shutdowns occurred, and then after that, I was sanitizing the same store for over 110 days straight. And so basically I'm looking to see if I can find something that gives me a substantial career. Now, one of the things here to note is that with my experience in my marketing firm, I did some business intelligence work where I was doing the point of sale investigation. So I would be doing product promotions in retail stores. I must have worked in 50 different retail stores in 8 different U.S. states, actually between my company and other retail companies, some of which, at least one of which, my firm bought out later on. And the situation is that I was in retail stores and I was being paid by my company, but my company would have contracts with various companies to collect business intelligence to see how consumers respond to different product offerings. And so I would go into stores and I would promote products, customers would sample those products, and then I would see what the customers thought of those products. And then I would report that back to my company. And sometimes I had to travel some pretty far distances. There were a lot of times I traveled 4.5 hours toward the end each way to go to work. And then I would also go to work and be at work for maybe 5 hours, and then I would do my corporate reporting and everything else. So I'm used to work days being long days when I go to work. I'm not necessarily looking for a job that gives long days, but I'm accustomed to having 12-hour days and or more with travel. So that's where I'm at with how things are with my job and my experience. Like I say, I'd worked for the company since 2009. It was during the pandemic there that things kind of dropped off, but last 3 or 4 years before 2009, I was working a lot of times. I was away from home 60 hours or more in a week, and so that's how things were with my company. Now, moving along to my education, this is an important subject here. I have, like I say, everything but the dissertation toward a doctorate degree of business administration with an emphasis in management from Grand Canyon University. And that was between the years 2014 to 2018. And then prior to that, I have a Master degree of Business Administration in Leadership from Liberty University. And then prior to that, I have a Master degree of Divinity from Liberty University. Now, the master's degree in Business Administration is a 45 credit hour degree. The Master degree of Divinity is a 93 credit hour degree. And then that was between the years 2010 to 2014. Now, prior to that, I completed a bachelor's degree of Arts and Economics, and I completed a Bachelor of Arts degree in Philosophy from Southern Illinois University Carbondale. And there I went in person, I did classes. That was between the years 2004 to 2007. And during that time, I also had a minor in classics, and I had another minor in history. And that was for my undergraduate studies for my bachelor's degrees. Again, Southern Illinois University Carbondale. And then prior to that, I went to Sauk Valley Community College in Dixon, Illinois, hometown of President Ronald Reagan. And I went there from the time I graduated high school in 1998 until 2004. And there I completed a Associate Applied Science degree in Computer Information Systems. I completed an Associate of Arts degree in Economics, Associate of Science degree in Mathematics, and Associate of Liberal Studies degree. So in all, I completed 4 degrees from Sauk Valley Community College, 2 degrees from Southern Illinois University Carbondale, 2 degrees from Liberty University, and I have 69 credit hours toward a doctorate degree of business administration at Grand Canyon University. I have everything but the dissertation. Now, I also have a number of certificates from Sauk Valley Community College. When I was going from 1998 until 2004, those certificates are in things like programming, they're in Supervisory Management, Management Information Systems. So I have a number of certificates from Sauk Valley Community College. Now, one of the highlights here I want to mention in terms of my education is that with my math education specifically, that really sets me apart, and also too I have a significant amount of computer programming education. With my mathematics education, I had completed college algebra, trigonometry, geometry, calculus for business, social science, calculus 1 for engineering and science, calculus 2 for engineering and science, calculus 3 for engineering and science, completed a class in differential equations. I had a number of statistics courses, and then there are other courses I've had as well that really show some computational abilities. I know when I was at Southern Illinois University Carbondale, I had 2 logic classes, and that 2 consecutive logic classes, and that was after an initial logic class at my community college. And so in total, I've had 3 logic courses, 3 consecutive logic courses as philosophy, and there we're looking at logic in terms of its form. I think we did some things with predicate calculus there in the later logic courses. And one of the things here to note with my education is that I did a lot of computer programming, like I mentioned here. I did structured COBOL, had 2 classes in that. I had C++ programming. I think I had a couple classes in that. Did some assembly language programming at Sauk Valley Community College. Did the x86 assembly language, and that's very machine dependent. What's called machine dependent, so it's down to the processor level. And also did some programming in Pascal and Visual Basic. We had Visual Basic class, Pascal class. So there was a lot of computer programming there. I think I even had an independent study class, and it was oriented in developing an artificial intelligence system using genetic algorithms, and that would have been in C++. So basically, in total, to summarize my education, I have enough mathematics that I could get a bachelor's degree in engineering without having to take more math classes, likely, even at schools that are real serious about engineering degrees. I've got enough mathematics education that I'm sure I could do that. And then I have enough seminary education with my 93 credit hour Master of Divinity in Professional Ministries that I've got this equivalent seminary education as what somebody would have that preaches at a church professionally full-time. And then with my master's degree of business administration, I have the same amount of formal education as what somebody that makes key business decisions would have in a company. And then I have everything but the dissertation toward a doctorate degree, and that in itself is significant because, a little bit more education and I could hypothetically be running a business consulting firm for companies, for executives to get consultation, to know how to fix problems. That's what the degree program was oriented around, and I know that Grand Canyon University was oriented around entrepreneurship. I have a letter of recommendation from Dr. Anthony Miles, who I believe is a venture capitalist, CEO of his own company, and he was my content expert on my dissertation committee. Now, what I've decided to do is I've decided to look a little bit more into public administration, and one of the things I did there is I applied to Liberty University to their doctorate degree in public policy and economic policy, and I got accepted into that. And so the focus is on developing somebody to train future economists, to develop somebody to have a doctorate degree so they can go out and bring up future economists. Now, as a side note here, in terms of economics, I wrote a letter to Congress back in October 15th of last year, 2020, and it was prior to the elections coming to a conclusion, and it was also during a time when our nation was struggling with various economic issues, and those economic issues were very extreme. It was before the government decided on extended unemployment that had the pandemic unemployment boost, and so it was at a time when a lot of people were unemployed and they didn't make very much on their unemployment, and the pandemic was in full swing, and people didn't know what they were going to do, and the government was looking for solutions. Now, some people thought that if I would have submitted my letter to Congress earlier, that people in charge of deciding the platform for the politicians may have considered my ideas very seriously, and there could have been some running on some of those issues. Now, what I addressed specifically in my letter to Congress, which I've been using as a writing sample and applying to federal jobs at the GS-11 level, what I described there in that letter to Congress is the idea of using $2 trillion a year for 10 years in two different ways. One, my idea was to do capital investments in firms as a form of stimulus, but the money would have to be spent in things that work toward economies of scale and bringing the unit production cost of goods down significantly so that products would be cheaper and that cheap things could be produced in mass quantities in order to have a lower cost. And then my second point, major point, was to give subsidies to retailers in order to lower the cost of goods in retail stores that are essential goods down to wholesale cost, so that consumers could come in and they could buy things like milk, eggs, cheese, butter at wholesale cost. And so my idea was to put more money in the hands of the consumer through making their essential goods that are needed for life cheaper. And by so doing, people would have larger disposable income, and that larger disposable income would grow what I would call value-added markets. And those value-added markets would be able to use higher skill sets. It would be able to use college-educated labor, and you would see new types of markets. And I mentioned a lot of topics in that letter to Congress that were related to how my plan would work and the economic sensibility of the plan. So if you're interested in me for some sort of position in government, or maybe some sort of position in your firm, I know that the positions that I've been considered most favorably for are positions as a contract analyst. I know that some positions for budget analysts had considered me, and also too I've been considered even most qualified for positions as an economist in the federal government at the GS-11 level, I believe even. And I don't, like I say, I don't have a master's degree in economics, and I don't have any doctorate education strictly in economics. I know that when I had some analysis done of my transcripts for one particular government economist position, I noticed that the person that did the analysis pointed out, so to speak, a few different graduate classes that he thought could be used to tally a total for graduate economics credit hours. But I don't have like a straight master's degree in economics. But I do have an undergraduate degree in economics, and when I was studying toward my Bachelor of Arts degree in economics, I studied mainly under a man that had worked at the Federal Reserve Board for some time. And I think he even went to I think there was like an awards dinner for somebody that had won a Nobel Prize in economics, and he went to an awards dinner of that type. So I'm not like the highest caliber economist possibly out there, because like I say, I've never had, for example, an econometrics class, but I would like that to change. I know that if you're interested in me, for example, in a position as a city economist, or if you're interested in me in some sort of county-related position, I'd be interested in talking to you. I know that I had applied for some positions even as deputy sheriff in some counties, and I had been considered for some of those positions. There are a number of positions I've been considered for. I was even considered for a position as a financial advisor at a brokerage firm. I've been considered for a couple of insurance agency positions. There are a lot of different jobs that I have been considered for. Now, for a while there, I was even doing some civic organization work there, and so I can tell you a whole gamut of work history and go into some great detail, but I like to keep this short. But if you'd like to see a full resume, feel free to contact me.